this nation. OSBC brings you the news. News across the country.
Good evening. Welcome to the news across the country. Osun government suspends teacher over fraud. APC postpones inauguration of presidential campaign council. Power failure forces reps to adjourn plenary. Man remanded for attempting to steal drugs from Lagos hospital. As Osun State joins the rest of the world to mark this year's World Tourism Day, Governor Adegboyega said tourism remains an area of focus to boost the state's economy. The governor adds that the tourism sector will continue to be one of the three critical sectors the state has adopted to drive in revenue generation, alongside agriculture and mining. The governor stated this today while delivering a speech at the occasion of the World Tourism Day held at the Center for Black Culture and International Understanding, Osogbo. Governor Itola, who was represented at the occasion by the Secretary to the State Government, Prince Wole Oyebamiji, said the state had, before the COVID year, re-engineered and retooled tourism to align with its resolve to shore up economic base and bolster the image of Osun as the home of culture and tourism in the country. Speaking on the celebration of the Tourism Day, the governor said it aims to foster awareness among the international community of the importance of tourism and its social, cultural, political, and economic values. In his welcome address, the Supervising Commissioner for the Ministry of Tourism and Culture in Osun, Engineer Lekan Badmus, said this year's World Tourism Day's theme, Rethinking Tourism, is apt as it is aimed to make the industry an inclusive, sustainable, and resilient sector. Also speaking at the event were various lecture on tourism activities, quiz competition, as well as cultural dance was at display to the admiration of the lovers of arts and culture. In attendance was the Executive Director Center for Black Culture and International Understanding, Professor Shion Oyeweso. According to Professor Oyeweso, the state is blessed and endowed with many natural things that other states lacks. He therefore appreciated Governor Adegboyega for amicably resolving the misunderstanding on Black Culture Center and urged the handlers of Osogbo to improve on the security aspect of the festival to boost the yearly patronage. Osun State government has suspended a teacher, Mr. Olowokere Abimbola, for defrauding some recently recruited teachers to the tune of 30,000 naira, claiming to influence their posting. Briefing newsmen on the matter, the State Commissioner for Education, Honorable Folorunsho Oladoyin, who condemned the act, advised the recently recruited teachers not to listen to anyone who demands money or other gratification from them under the guise of influencing their postings. He said the state government had recruited the first batch of 1,000 teachers with the determination to post them to schools and towns where their services are basically needed. The commissioner stressed that the posting of the new teachers rests solely with the State Ministry of Education and the State Universal Basic Education Board, SUBEB, saddled with the official responsibility of knowing where the teachers are needed. Honorable Oladoyin then warned any teacher of official of government who is still in the act of collecting money before rendering one service or the other to desist from it or be ready to face the full wrath of the law. The Nigerian Immigration Service, NIS, has trained 200 personnel across the country on mental health. According to a statement by Managing Director IRS Ayuba Fagbemi, the training is part of efforts of the NIS Controller General Idris Jerry to enhance productivity. Mr. Fagbemi lamented that despite being an integral part of well-being, mental health has been neglected in the country. Quoting statistics from the World Health Organization. It said 450 million people suffer from mental disorder globally, while 25% will have mental illness at some point in their lives. It said the research also showed that emotional intelligence accounted for nearly 90% of what set high performers apart from others. Mr. Fagbemi warned against the negative effects of psychoactive drugs and advised the people to shun drug abuse in any form. He explained that the training equipped the officers with emotional intelligence skills in the workplace. The federal government has been called upon to accord more relevance to vocational education in order to move the country forward in technological advancement. A public affairs analyst, Dr. Yinka Andrews, who disclosed this while featuring on a weekly current affairs personality interview program, Politics, said more relevance is given to paper certification than acquisition of knowledge. Dr. Andrews, who advised the warring parties in the prolonged face-off between the federal government and university teachers to embrace dialogue and return to negotiation table, submitted the students who have been at home in the past 7 months are those mainly affected by the impasse. For the sake of socio-economic development of the country, he called on the two sides to reach an agreement to reopen the universities. On the agitation for true federalism, Andrews conversed for return to fiscal federalism to enable states control their resources and develop their different phase. As next year general election approaches, Dr. Andrews called on candidates and political parties to make their campaigns issue-based. The All Progressives Congress APC Presidential Campaign Council has again postponed the start of its campaigns, earlier slated for tomorrow. The Director General of the Tinubu Shetima Presidential Campaign Council and Governor Simon Lalong disclosed this in a statement today. Mr. Lalong said the development followed the party's decision to include more people in the campaign council. He explained that this was to ensure that everyone was on board before activities officially commenced. Mr. Lalong, however, said a new date and timetable of events would be announced soon. The Senate today initiated moves to remove the governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria as chairman of board of the Apex Bank. The CBN Act No. 7 of 2007 makes any incumbent governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria to also serve as chairman of its board. The Senate, through a bill sponsored by Umar Sadiq Suleiman, which scaled second reading, is seeking for appointment of a person other than a sitting CBN governor to be the chairman of the board. Though a number of senators, including James Manager, Orji Uzokalu, and Yinaya Abaribe, opposed the bill, counter submissions made by Jibrin Barau, Betty Apiafi made the bill to scale second reading. Apiafi in particular said the intended amendment was very necessary in view of the way the incumbent CBN governor Godwin Emefiele was branded as contestant for the presidential ticket of the ruling All Progressives Congress APC in May 2002. The Senate President Ahmad Lawan, however, cautioned senators to focus on the proposed amendment rather than dabbling into the alleged attempt by the CBN governor to contest, as that wasn't part of the general principles of the bill. It therefore mandated the Senate Committee on Banking, Insurance, and Other Financial Institutions to work on it and report back in 4 weeks. The All Progressives Congress APC Jesha North Federal Constituency, which comprises Obokun and Oriade local government, has announced the death of its leader, High Chief Shola Ogunsoya. It was until his death the Risa of Iloko Ijesha. A statement by Chief Rufus Oluwatayo, Chief Nasiru Komolafe, and Elder Colinius Eson described the passing on of High Chief Ogunsoya as painful, considering his lofty contributions to the APC as a family. The burial arrangement in honor of the late politician is to be made known later. A bill for an act to establish the National Religious Harmony Commission has passed second reading in the House of Representatives today in Abuja. The bill, which sought to provide statutory framework for for the protection of fundamental human rights as it relates to matters of religious freedom and liberty was sponsored by the Speaker, Honorable Femi Gbajabiamila. The bill, which was presented on behalf of the Speaker by Honorable Abubakar Fulata, APC Jigar, when passed into law, would give powers to the Commission to ensure religious harmony. It would also empower the Commission to investigate cases of religious discrimination, victimization, and harassment in all sectors of Nigeria and prosecute offenders. In his ruling, the Speaker referred the bill to the Committee of the Whole for accelerated action. The Permanent Secretary of the Ministry of Defense, Ibrahim Kana, is currently meeting with the leadership of the protesting ex-military personnel in a secret meeting at a ship house at Olusegun Obasanjo Way in Abuja. A source at the ministry who spoke to journalists on the condition of anonymity noted that the Permanent Secretary, acting on the orders of the Minister of Defense, Major General Bashir Magashi, retired, is meeting with the ex-soldiers to convince them to suspend the ongoing protest. It was gathered that the protesting military veterans, under the aegis of the retired members of Nigerian Armed Forces and a coalition of concerned military veterans, pitched a tent and slept over at the entrance of the Ministry of Defense building. Reporters said that the ex-soldiers staged the third phase of their protest over the non-payment of their security debarment allowance, among others. This is the news across the country, coming to you from Osun State Broadcasting Corporation, Voice of the West, Nigeria. Now I made news message. Life is a mixture of ups and downs, but how you treat the two impostors determines who you are. No condition is permanent. The use of talking drum as a way of promoting African music and culture caught the attention of our entertainment news today. Misola Abeni is ready with a finance.
Talking drum, also known as gong or dundu, which means sweet sound, is a traditional handcrafted drum of the Yoruba tribe from southwestern part of Nigeria, originated from Oyo. It was first assembled for Alafin as his musical outfit whenever he goes to war, and it is used to motivate his army. The instrument holds a very significant place in Yoruba folklore and culture as a source of history, proverbs, poetry, and daily life. It is an hourglass-shaped drum whose pitch can be regulated to mimic the tone and prosody of human speech. Talking drum is one of the oldest instruments which was more prevalent in West African culture. Majorly, the Ghana Empire, Borno, Hausa, and Yoruba people use this drumming sound percussion instrument. The hourglass-shaped drum can be traced back to antiquity and is known by varieties of names like Konogo, Sama, Dondo, Odondo, including the Gongon in Yoruba and Dodo in Sangya. Today, the talking drum is used in African popular music and has spread quite poorly outside of Africa. Its range is limited to a gathering and it is primarily used in ceremonial settings, ceremonial functions, which include dance, rituals, storytelling, and communication of messages. Messages beaten on the drum could call individual miles away in the forest or broadcast news to distant villages. According to the deceased, Alafin of Oyo, late Oba Lamidi Olayiwola Adeyemi, the drummers in his palace used their talking drum to notify and warn him anytime a visitor or traitor visits him. Adding that their drumming are always pregnant with meanings. Talking drum has 2 drum heads connected by leather tension cords, which allows the player to change the pitch of the drum by squeezing the cords between their arm and body. Some Nigerian youths now have more interest in their culture in the aspect of respect for gender equality, while the culture permits certain things for both the male and female gender. Making reference to Aralola Olamuyiwa, who is commonly known by her stage name Ara, is recognized as one of the best female talking drummer in Africa. Mrs. Aralola Olamuyiwa, in an interview with our Entertainment News, says talking drum is beyond just a musical instrument, but a means of communication.
The talking drum was a soul preserve of men for centuries. It was first a means of communication before it became a musical instrument. I believe that it's not just a musical instrument for me. It's more of communicating a lot of wonderful cultural views and beautiful ideas to the world, not just Nigeria. So for me, the talking drum is beyond just a musical instrument. It is a means of communication. Most importantly for me, it is communicating my beautiful culture, communicating my music, and the message in my music as at the time and when performing.
One uniqueness of talking drum is that it has been impossible for the white to duplicate it using modern technology. Gbemisola Abeni for OSBC Entertainment News.
In a bid to ensure the well-being of the citizenry, the National Assembly is exploring avenues aimed at strengthening the operations of security agencies in the country. Pursuant to the goal, a 2-day retreat on national security legislative reform for Senate committee members is being held at the instance of the National Assembly in conjunction with stakeholders in the security sector and cornered at Nigel Steve Tong, the clerk of the National Assembly, architect Amos Ojo, who expressed concern over rivalry among security agencies in the country, stressed the need to put relevant legislations in place that will strengthen the security architecture in the country, underscoring the need for Nigerians to support the security agencies to tackle the ravaging security challenges across the country. He expressed concern over the escalation of the insecurity challenges through the social media. According to him, the retreat was organized in furtherance of activities undertaken to address issues relating to the overlapping mandates of security agencies in Nigeria. Architect Ojo expressed optimism that the outcome of the retreat would create an enabling environment aimed at reforming the national security architecture. The National Industrial Court sitting in Abuja today struck out the suit filed by a factional president of the National Association of Nigerian Students, Umar Lawal, seeking for the court's order to mandate the Academic Staff Union of Universities to call off its industrial action and return to the classroom. Lawal, who told the court that he filed a suit on behalf of himself and NAMS, withdrew the suit when the matter came up in court today. Lawal told the court presided over by Justice Polycarp Aman that he had fled a motion of discontinuance on the account of the challenge by the student body which contested his standing, and denied that he is the president of NANS as he had deposed to. Justice Aman therefore terminated further proceedings in the matter. A federal high court sitting in Umuahia, Abia State, has adjourned a case seeking to nullify the primary election that produced Ikechi Emenike as the governorship candidate of the All Progressives Congress to October 5, 2022 for a definite hearing. A governorship aspirant on the party, Daniel Eke, in a case approached the court seeking for the nullification of the indirect primary election that produced Emenike and the direct primary election that produced the immediate past Minister of State for Mines and Steel Development, Uche Oga, as a factional candidate over falsehood. The court, presided by Justice E.N. Anyadike, granted the counsel to the plaintiff Obina Nkume prayer for time to be given to his team to respond to the processes filed by the defendants, which was not served on time to them. Speaking to journalists shortly after the court sitting, Nkume said his clients were aggrieved by the primary election that produced a Menike and Oga, which he described as a charade. And Ikeja High Court today sentenced a dethroned Baale in Shangisha in Magodo area of Lagos State, Mutiu Ogundare, and his brother Okpeyemi Muhammad to 15 years imprisonment each for faking his own kidnap. Report has it that the court on June 15 discharged and acquitted the third defendant, Ogundare's wife, Abolanle, Justice Hakim Oshodi, and on June 15 convicted Ogundare and Muhammad on 3 counts of bordering on conspiracy and fake abduction. According to reports that Mr. Olariwaju Ajanaku, who represented the first defense counsel, Dr. Muniz Banire, in his allocutus on June 15 prayed the court to temper justice with mercy. Ajanaku had prayed the court that the convicts had turned a new leaf and he did not think through his action when he committed offenses. The second defense counsel, Dr. Olayinka Oweye, also in his allocutus, had prayed the court to temper justice with mercy, adding that the convict had learnt his lessons. The state prosecutor, Mr. Jubril Karim, however, urged the court to apply the provisions of law to sentence the convicts. The Ikeja Magistrate Court in Lagos has ordered that 33-year-old Ibrahim Abubakar be remanded in the Kirikiri Correctional Center for attempting to steal drugs from a hospital store. Mr. Abubakar, an unemployed man who resides at 4 Ogumokun, Mushin, Lagos, is charged with attempted theft. He pleaded guilty. Magistrate A. J. Odueke adjourned the matter until next month for sentencing. Ms. Williams said the defendant posed as a hospital staff member, gained access to its store, and attempted to open it to steal drugs and other medical items. 6 convicts serving various jail terms in Katsina have been granted clemency. They were freed sequel to a report submitted to Governor Aminu Masari by the Katsina State Advisory Council on Prerogative of Mercy, headed by Attorney General and Commissioner for Justice Asmau Mukhtar. Masari, while signing the report at the Government House, said there was no need to delay the freedom of the lucky convicts. The Nigeria Security and Civil Defense Corps (NSCDC) says severe sanctions await officers found to have compromised the Corps mandate of securing critical national assets. NSCDC Commandant in Rivers, Ms. Michael Olga, gave the warning when he addressed officers of the command in Port Harcourt today. He said the Defense Corps would not tolerate any act capable of denigrating the image and integrity of the Corps. The Independent National Electoral Commission has warned political parties and politicians in Gombe State against not exceeding the approved campaign finances. According to a statement by the INEC Head of Voter Education and Publicity, Nuhu Ibrahim, on behalf of the Administrative Secretary, the Commission promised to track campaign funds using trained staff, while urging political actors about the need for peaceful coexistence. INEC also sought 8 free comments to entrench a rancor-free environment. INEC also called on electorates to collect their permanent voter card, stressing that it remained the authentic visa to participating in elections. Vice President Yemi Osinbajo has received some world-class young Nigerians gymnasts, describing their performances as intriguing and exciting. Osinbajo spokesman Laolu Akonde, in a statement today, said the Vice President received a member of an international gymnastic club at the Presidential Villa Abuja. Speaking after the remarks by the athletes and the video presentation of their participation in the recent championship in South Africa, Osinbajo expressed delight at the conduct of the gymnastics, their coaches and parents. He said that areas of possible support from the government would be explored, especially in ensuring that more talents were nurtured to national and international prominence. The proposed World Boxing Council WBC heavyweight between reigning champion Tyson Fury and Anthony Joshua is off the table after Joshua fails to sign the contract papers on the deadline day. Adeyemi Aboderin has more on sports updates.
Reigning World Boxing Council WBC heavyweight champion Tyson Fury has declared that he would not be fighting Anthony Joshua again. An exasperated Fury could not hide his disappointment following Joshua's refusal to sign bout contract as scheduled that will seal all British heavyweight showdown, as he referred to former WBA, WBO and IBF champions as a coward. Fury, who retired after his second triumph over Deontay Wilder in a trilogy last October, agrees a comeback fight to face Joshua as the boxing world awaits the clash tentatively fixed for December 3rd, but now being put on hold. Fury set a deadline of 5 p.m. Monday to sign the contract for their bout, but as that time passed, no paper was inked. Fury had called out Joshua earlier this month despite his 2 consecutive defeats after hearing that Alexander Usyk would not be ready to face him until early next year. Joshua accepted the call and agreed to all Fury's proposed terms. These include a 60-40 split in Fury's favor, a 50-50 rematch clause, and a proposed date of December 3rd at the Principality Stadium. Meanwhile, World Heavyweight Champion Alexander Usyk has outlined his plan to retire after 3 more fights, as he wants to spend more time with his children. The 35-year-old Ukrainian turned professional 9 years ago and has an unbeaten record of 20 wins, but wants to fight Tyson Fury to unify the heavyweight division before he hangs up his gloves. Usyk has also been linked with a fighting bout with Canelo Alvarez, who has been world champion at 4 different weight categories, but says that will be a freak fight. In the meantime, Nigeria's men national basketball team, the Tigers, has moved up 2 places in the latest FIBA World Ranking released on Monday and is now ranked 19th in the world. This is despite the Tigers dropping 2 games out of 3 at the FIBA Basketball World Cup African qualifiers in Abidjan, Cote d'Ivoire last month. Nigeria, however, retains the number 1 spot in Africa, with Tunisia taking a huge leap of 7th step to rank 20 in the world. Senegal is 36th in the world and 3rd in Africa, while Algeria dropped 9 places in the world to rank 39 and 4 in Africa, just as Cote d'Ivoire dropped 2 places to rank 42nd and is 5th on the continent. The top-ranked team in the world remains United States, but their ranking points are now less than 2 above Spain, reigning world champions, winners of Eurobasket, and reached the quarterfinals of the 2021 Olympics. Skipper of Nigeria's under-17 women's team, Flamingos, Alvin Dasozo, has underlined the objective of the team going to the World Cup. The team under coach Bankole Oluokere has been in camp and they are expected to depart the country for Turkey on Monday. Sozo, while speaking as they set to depart, said their focus to win the cup for Nigeria. Super Eagles have arrived Oran for tonight's international friendly game against Desert Forces of Algeria. 22 players and technical crew members made the trip to the coastal city of Oran from Constantine. The 3-time African champions were held to a 2-2 draw by Algeria's home base side at the Mohamed and Balu Stadium on Friday.
That was the news across the country, edited by Temitope Olayiwola. For more about us, visit www.osbcng.org. Thanks for listening. Good evening.
It's entertaining. It's educating. Really informative. Qualitative news as it breaks. It's OSBC Radio 2, 104.5 FM. Numero uno south of the Sahara. Voice of the West.
104.5. Ole Koko. Omi Jiji.